Welcome to Fydell House. We've been described as the grandest house in Boston by the guidebooks. My name is Martin Bishop, I'm your guide for today. I've been associated with the house for over 50 years when I started playing cricket for the Pilgrim College cricket team, and I taught here and I ran classes here as well. But my family has been associated with the house since 1851 when my great aunt Jane Bishop was a housekeeper here and maid. Fydell House was built about 1702. We're a bit of an enigma really because we're not sure exactly when it was built. We don't know who the architect was, and we're now not really sure if we're pronouncing it right because we've always known it as Fydell House. These are the last existing Fydells and they pronounce it Fydell. If this is the grandest house in town, then the Fydells were definitely the grandest family in town. They were immensely wealthy. They came over to this country from French Flanders, and when they bought the house in 1726 they became wine merchants, and I'm actually stood above their wine cellars which stretch under the house, next door into the building and even out into our garden. Fydells actually owned the house until 1933, although they didn't always live in it. In latter years they rented it out. In 1933 George Fydell Rowley died and the whole of his estate was put up for auction. Now at the time, the Fydell House garden, which we'll see later, was about 4 times the length it is now. It stretched right back as far as Boston United football ground and the Maud Foster Drain. And in 1933, a Birmingham consortium wanted to buy it up, building a housing estate, knock the house down and put a road through. And the people of Boston thought they wanted to keep the house, so they formed Boston Preservation Trust, who bought the house in 1938. When Boston Preservation Trust bought the house in 1938, it was in a terrible condition. All the front was covered with ivy. This is Baltic pine, this was covered with black pitch. I'll come back to that in a minute. We got a lot of money from Boston, Massachusetts to help the restoration, on the understanding we keep one room as an American room for any American tourists who want to come round and sit in it, have a rest and write postcards home. The other thing we're particularly proud of is this Rococo plasterwork. We think this is just a little bit younger than the house, but not by a great deal. And as you go up the stairs, you get an even better look at it, especially the ceiling. We've now moved to the green room, which will be the Fydells' main room. And this is the room which we use for conferences and talks, and it's also licensed for weddings. And we get quite a few people get married here, particularly, as you'll see, because we've got the garden. If you can move out here, you'll be able to see the beautiful garden that we have. Continuing in the garden, this would be the gardener's workshop, and underneath here we've actually got the cellars still with the wine rats in. We know you can use it for that purpose, of course, and we've turned it into a jewellery and pottery workshop, and people rent it out. We've got a very large kiln, and that does very well. You can also see the rockery garden, which we've had to restore ourselves. The garden is managed entirely by volunteers, and they come in 3 or 4 or 5 mornings a week and manage the whole lot, and as you can see it's in very good condition at the moment. This is a mulberry tree, and it's only about 30-35 years old, but we do get a good crop of mulberries off it most years, and these are what they look like. What happens is we stretch a net under the tree and catch the mulberries as they ripen, and then if we get enough we turn them into mulberry jam. So if you come and have scones and jam in Fydell House, you may be able to try some of our mulberry jam. Last but not least, we have this room which we've turned into our tea room. So now on Wednesdays we always do tea and cakes. Later on in the year we'll be doing simple meals as well, like soups and jacket potatoes. So if you visit Fydell House on a Wednesday, come in and have tea and cakes with us. You might get some of that mulberry jam.